Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're taking you to Sydney's Upper North Shore. You know, that place with beautiful homes and top-notch schools. But hold on, because it's not all just manicured lawns and harbor views. We're going to uncover the changing face of this iconic area, especially over the past decade. And to help us do that, I've got a real expert joining us today.
It's great to be here. The Upper North Shore is fascinating to me. It's like it's trying to balance this image of, those stately homes and heritage with the reality of a changing world. What we see happening now, even compared to, say, 5 or 10 years ago, is pretty remarkable.
So let's get into it. We've got this New South Wales government document, Explanation of Intended Effect, Changes to Create Low and Mid-Rise Housing. The goal. It's all about upping that housing density. They're aiming for a whopping 112,000 new homes by July 2029. But here's the catch. This applies even to those areas known for their, shall we say, more spacious properties. What's that going to look like on the Upper North Shore?
Think dual occupancies. Essentially, one property turns into two separate living spaces, like a duplex. Then there are those semi-detached homes, what most folks call a duplex or a townhouse. And guess what? This policy allows them in areas zoned as R2 low-density residential, which covers a significant chunk of the Upper North Shore.
Hold on a second. So we're talking about potentially seeing more duplexes and townhouses popping up,
Yeah.
even on streets that used to be all about those grand standalone houses.
Mhm.
That's a massive change for a suburb known for its leafy avenues and those impressive estates. It makes you wonder, how will this impact the overall character of the area?
And here's the thing, it's not just a what if. We're already seeing this trend happening. Take a look around more apartment buildings, more townhouses, even in those traditionally affluent suburbs. It's a subtle shift, but it's
Yeah.
definitely there. And this new policy, well, it's like stepping on the gas.
It begs the question, is this just natural evolution or are we talking about a revolution? And what does this mean for the people who already call the Upper North Shore home?
Now, that's the million-dollar question, right? On the one hand, this change means new people can experience the Upper North Shore lifestyle. They get access to all those great amenities. But it does make you think about how it will change what already exists. And what about that community feel that's been built up over generations?
It's a real balancing act, isn't it? Trying to hold on to the past while embracing the future. Speaking of embracing, can we talk about those amazing houses for sale in Gordon? Because I was browsing online, and let me tell you, some of those places are incredible.
Oh, Gordon's a great example of that Upper North Shore mix. It's close enough to the city to be convenient, but it still has that village feel. And the properties there really reflect that. You see everything from those grand old homes to more modern places.
Right. I was on a real estate and property for sale in Gordon, NSW 2072, and there were two listings that really caught my eye. First one, 62 Ride Road, classic four-bedroom place going to auction. And speaking of auctions, have you ever been to one of those?
Mhm.
Because talk about intense.
There's something else. It's like the energy in the room just goes up a notch when those bids start flying around. It's got to be ready to make a quick decision when you're at an auction, that's for sure.
Especially with Gordon's median house price sitting at like, what, 3.85 million? I can only imagine the competition for a place like that. But it's not just about the money, is it?
Yeah.
It's about the lifestyle those homes represent. You know, big gardens, those beautifully designed interiors. It's peak Upper North Shore living.
There's definitely an element of aspiration there, right? That sense of space, peace, and quiet, having that established, affluent lifestyle. But then you mentioned another listing, 19A Bushlands Avenue. Now that one, that's a whole different story. 6 bedrooms.
Oh, I saw that one. It's practically its own resort. Multiple living areas, a pool, tennis court, the works.
And that's what's so interesting about the Upper North Shore market. You've got those grand estates, sure, but there's actually quite a variety of properties. Smaller houses, modern apartments, something for, well, almost every budget. As long as your budget stretches into the multi-millions, of course.
Right, because affordability is a whole other conversation. But even with those high prices, it seems like the Upper North Shore market's been pretty steady. Even with the ups and downs in other parts of Sydney, it's held its value.
That's the thing about the Upper North Shore. It's got that lasting appeal. Beautiful streets, those top-tier schools. It's a big draw for buyers. Even when the economy is uncertain, people still want to live there.
Makes you think about what else makes the Upper North Shore so special, right? And I think a big part of it is that focus on education. Those girls' schools, for example, they're practically institutions. They've been around for so long, educating generations of young women. There's a definite air of, well, prestige, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. They're a huge part of what makes the Upper North Shore what it is. You can't talk about the area without mentioning them, like Laredo Kirribilli, for
Okay.
instance. Right on the harbor. It's practically a Sydney icon.
And talk about history. Founded in 1901, they've seen all world wars, recessions, everything. Can you imagine walking those halls, knowing that someone like Clover Moore, the Lord Mayor, was once a student there?
It makes you think about all the amazing women who've walked through those doors, right? And that connection to the past, that sense of tradition, it's definitely something families value on the Upper North Shore. But it's not just about looking back. These schools are also leading the way when it comes to new ideas in education.
Exactly. Like Roseville College really stands out for their focus on STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, which is so important, especially for girls.
It's about giving them the tools they need to succeed in, well, a world that changes so quickly. And one thing that's interesting about Roseville College is that it's smaller than some of the other schools in the area.
And for some families, that's a big plus. That sense of
Mhm.
community, of really knowing your teachers and classmates, it can make a huge difference.
It's all about finding the right fit, isn't it? And that's the great thing about the Upper North Shore. There are so many choices when it comes to education. Each school has its own personality, its own strengths, just like the area itself.
It's that mix of history and aspiration and always adapting that makes the Upper North Shore so fascinating. I mean, it's really a microcosm of Sydney as a whole.
Right. You might be drawn to those beautiful houses and tree-lined streets, but there's so much more to it than that. That sense of community, the focus on achievement, and, that feeling that things are always changing.
It's like that saying, the more things change, the more they stay the same, but with a twist. Because on the Upper North Shore, it feels more like the more things change, the more interesting they get.
Exactly. It's a story that's still being written in one family, one school, one change at a time.
And that's what we love to explore, right?
Yeah.
So until next time, keep asking those questions and diving deep with us.